Hey, what's happening, everybody? We're back with more discussions over Hellboy and his larger universe that's set to hit theaters again sometime in the near future. And today we're talking about the big guy himself. I think it's fair to say that there's not too much known about the project outside of which characters will show up and a potential plot. Actually, that does seem like quite a bit. But what I want to get at is that we don't know too much about what these characters will be like and how they'll influence the story. And I guess that's par for the course with where the film is now, but it still interests me to know how the new production wants to portray Hellboy and how it will compare and contrast with the Del Toro films that came before. Luckily though, we have a few interviews in the brand new picture from Lionsgate to shape a little bit of what this new Hellboy will be like, what we can expect, and how he compares to the previous version played by Ron Perlman. I think the biggest thing to take away from the original movies is that Ron Perlman played very much a smart aleck, a guy that likes to crack wise to his larger-than-life opponents, which certainly isn't far from what he would do in the comics, but there's a little bit more to Hellboy in the Del Toro films. He's got this desire to interact with the outside world, where he wants to be public knowledge and to be one with society. He finds himself at a crossroads though in Hellboy 2, where he's torn between his upbringing and his magical roots, the trench only growing deeper once he sees how humanity rejects him. There was also relationship troubles in the second one, but it's not really prevalent, and I kind of don't really care about it, so there's not much to go into on that front. So there's always this pressing matter on identity in the Del Toro movies, about what it means to be a man and where we truly belong, and that plays out in Hellboy's journey across both films. He's a guy finding out who he is, and where he belongs outside of his destiny and his roots. Outside of that, he's just a really fun guy with all manners of wit about him that just makes the original films enjoyable things to watch. He's this really bona fide badass with a mouth, always smoking away on a cigar and quick to throw out a punch. What I sort of get from the new reboot descriptions of the character is that he's probably not going to be nearly as happy-go-lucky in his demeanor. What I seem to understand is that he's going to be a guy that's a lot more self-reflecting, maybe a bit more tired as he's dealing with the same old crap but on a different day. He's a guy with deeper problems that's venting this out by slapping around eldritch beasts, all the while he goes home, or the closest thing he has to a home, and just stews in his own problems while puffing on a cigarette. At least that's what I get from what David Harbour has said on the subject, where in many interviews he gives its impression on what they're doing for the character and how they're building him into something different from the previous films. As said on MTV's Happy Sad Confused podcast, Ron sort of embraces this machismo in himself and in Hellboy. That kind of is this thing, and I really like it, and I think it's super fun, and it's a super fun performance, but I think Hellboy has a certain psychodynamic where occasionally he has to prove that he's the lion and has to roar. But I think he struggles with his own masculinity. But I don't think he needs that as much as maybe those other movies did. I have a bit of a different take on his capability or his slickness. I sort of think that for me, he's a little less skilled at constructing that persona. Well, I don't know how much I agree with all of that, but I do think that they're going for something that's supposed to go a little deeper into his mind and how he carries himself. Whether that be him coming to terms with his destiny for the world, or whether or not he thinks he's doing much for the world with the BPRD, we don't really know. The film is set to follow the path set forth in the Nimue trilogy within the framework of the original comic, and that went to a lot of different places about what Hellboy must come to terms with in regards to his role as the harbinger of the apocalypse, and what he can do to prevent something like that from happening. The recent image that came out suggests a character that's a little darker as well, as his proportions are a little more realistic than the prosthetic suit that Ron Perlman had to wear, and his body just has this darker shade to it. Scars are scratched all across the surface, and his own hand undergoes a new look as it's a lot more blocky, looking less like a hand of stone and more like some obtrusive object placed on his body. It looks angry, a lot more gruff in some ways, so I'm expecting we'll be getting a deeper character study on him in terms of how he sees himself and how he sees the world around him. Mignola has gone on to say that the approach is something like Logan, being lean, dark, and tough, so here's to hoping they capture the aspect where the movie focuses on the inner turmoil the character goes through in the wake of what he's destined to be. But that's just my take on it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and please subscribe to check out more of our news updates and discussions on Hellboy here at the Hybrid Network. This is Luke, and we'll catch you all next time.